Hello! Welcome to my first hashtag Flip Through Friday on this channel. But I really wanted to do it because I went to a thrift store that I had never been to before, this location anyway. I didn't even know was there, and we accidentally came across it, and it was the St. Vincent de Paul thrift store, and I found this lovely book. It was very hidden. I mean, it was just by chance. I was walking past, I glanced over, and I see this fairy here. But all I see is just a part of her. And I was like, you know, all this like naturey, woodsy vibe, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? And I grabbed it and I just saw the cover and I put it in the cart. Like, this is mine. No matter what it is, it's coming home with me. It was 99 cents. And I just couldn't wait to look through it. So I wanted to do the hashtag Flip Through Friday. This is probably going to be a long video. So just giving you that heads up because I'm actually going to flip through each page and really look through it. And I hope you want to look at it with me. This is Watercolor Fairies, a step-by-step guide to creating the fairy world by David Ritchie and Anna Franklin. And the artwork is amazing. I'm so happy to have found this book. Sorry for hitting the camera. It's a big book, so I'm probably going to accidentally hit the camera again, and I do sincerely apologize. But I'm just trying to show y'all. Getting started. Part 1, getting started. Part 2, directory of fairies. Artist websites, picture credits. Did you wonder why you picked up this book? What made you do it? Could it have been the title, the cover image, a recommendation from a friend, or just simple curiosity? Or might you have been guided by an unseen force that seemed to urge you to visit another world? Deep in our psyches, most of us have a sense that magic can happen and that the veil between two worlds can be lifted, just as it is sometimes in dreams. Exploring the energy of the world of the fairies. And I won't read it because we definitely don't have time for that, but I at least want to just look through all the pages because this art is beautiful. I think I'll just flip through fast so the video isn't too long, but I love how some of them are just sketches like this. Like, look at her. I love her with their tree and the birds. This is materials for drawing and painting. I hear Batman carrying on. He's very feisty lately, which is a wonderful thing, but he's definitely driving my mom a little bit. Him and Pablo just making a ton of noise lately playing. I love this little moth fairy. There's even darker fairies in here, which I tend to like the most. So I'm excited to get a closer look at those. Yeah, so we have flower fairies. I actually want to read this book too, to be honest. Aw, little pinecone fairy. Nature's fairies. Fairies prefer the quiet of the wood or meadow to the bustle of the city. All natural things are in their care, from the tiniest flower to the fiercest forest animal. Wow, this artwork, look at that. These are some amazing artists. This is what section here is flower fairies, the essentials. Dryads. Maybe I'll read the first little paragraph. Flower fairies. There is an old legend that fairies are born in flowers, and certainly the two are closely associated. Many people still believe that fairies cause plants to grow, flitting from blossom to blossom, ensuring that the buds open in spring and then wither again as summer gives way to autumn. Images of such creatures have become very well known since Victorian and Edwardian times, when several popular illustrators assigned each flower to a particular fairy and depicted fairies clad in the petals and leaves of their plant. Dryads. They live only in those trees that grow in secluded places, far away from the prying eyes of men. Each has her own sapling and can merge with it at will, so that the chance passerby will see only a slender, graceful tree. The dryad has a very special relationship with her tree, and if it is cut down, she will die in the same instant. Nevertheless, on the night of the full moon, all the dryads leave their homes to dance together through the moonlit glades of the forest, and many a lonely shepherd has heard their silvery laughter. Nymphs. The lovely nymphs who guard all the natural places of the earth appear as young maidens, exquisitely beautiful, graceful, and charming. Their legends come to us from ancient Greece, where several different classes of such fairies were known, including the Ptolemaids, who made certain that rivers flowed freely, and the Naiads, who ensured that the water of streams was fresh and clear. Oreads looked after the lofty mountain peaks, while Meliads were the nymphs of the ash trees, and Dryads those of oaks. Oceanids dwelt in the sea and protected good sailors from shipwreck. Occasionally, nymphs fall in love with human men, and their sons become remarkable heroes. Water fairies. Every body of water, from the smallest stream to the vast ocean, has its own protective fairy living below the surface and hoarding all the treasure from wrecked ships, just as water takes the form of the vessel into which it is poured. Water fairies have the power to alter their shape to suit their environment. If you anger them by polluting their water, they may appear as hideous green-toothed hags to drench you with a sudden storm or drown you beneath the waves. But if they take a liking to you, they may appear as gorgeous golden-haired youths or maids, wooing you with sweet fairy music. This is how to draw a sunflower fairy. Perfect for the time of year we're in right now. Beautiful. And here's the finished image. Peekaboo fairy. And this is way above my skill level, but I got this book because I just thought it was a gorgeous book. Ethereal fairies. All fairies are elusive and are usually invisible to mortals, but some are more ethereal than others. Unlike the earthbound nature fairies, ethereal fairies are closer to the world of spirit than matter. Wow, I love this one. Beautiful. Got crystal fairy over here. This is actually the rainbow fairy. Her wings are rainbow. Sylphs. Sylphs dwell, let me make sure there we go, a little more centered. Sylphs dwell entirely in the element of air. Riding the wind, thermals, and resting occasionally on high mountain summits, they are almost transparent to those who do not have the fairy sight. but you may feel they're passing on drafts and puffs of air, or if you listen carefully, you may hear their voices on the breeze. Their name comes from a Greek word meaning butterfly, and some sylphs have the wings of butterflies while others have feathered wings like birds. Some are very tall and others as tiny as moths, but all have eyes as sharp as those of hawks. Sprites. Sprites are insubstantial and subtle beings. Their name simply means spirit, and they have few dealings with mortals. In popular fairy tales, sprites are responsible for ushering in the winter, causing the leaves to change in the fall, turning them brown, red, and gold before they wither and drop from the trees. Other sprites appear as spirits of frost and snow, painting window panes with lacy ice patterns and nipping the fingers and toes of children. Sprites are always out when sun and rain occur together, and the rainbow bridges the gap between the ordinary world and fairyland. It is the sprites who paint it with its 7 colors. Devas or divas. They are rather esoteric fairies that occupy a mystical realm between the physical and spiritual plane, which is therefore sometimes referred to as the Middle Kingdom. They are ethereal creatures with bodies made of the very finest matter that seem to shine with an inner light. The energy that flows through them sometimes appears as flowing hair and wings, though they can take any form they wish. Their job is to give the world its material structure, and especially to show plants how to grow and what form to take. Every plant, flower, and vegetable has its own deva or diva. Song fairy. This is how to draw and paint that, and that is the finished image. I mean, this is well above my skill level. Well above. I'm like a skill level 2 out of 10. The Dark Eyes Fairy. Oh, that must have been what I saw. I thought there was like a dark fairies, and couldn't wait to see what those looked like, but maybe I just saw this because I did just a real fast flip through in my haul video. Oh, and here's what she looks like finished. Oh yes, here we go, Dark Fairies. I was really interested to see this. There's a Dark Fairies Oracle that I really want. Dark Fairies. Not all fairies are good and beautiful. Some are ugly and some are very wicked indeed. And their chief aim in life being the suffering of human beings. Well, I like the Dark Fairies Oracle because it has more, sass to it. A little more spice and sass and a little less sweet. With the Frost Queen. They're calling her Morgane, which makes me think of, so Morgane has her origins in Celtic mythology. She is a dark fairy queen. Do I have it up here, right, where you can see? There you go. Also known as Morgan Le Fay or Morgan the Fairy. She is mistress of magic and ruler of Avalon, the mysterious island where old age and death are unknown. It was to Avalon that she transported her half-brother Arthur as he lay dying after his final battle. She cured him with her magic, and he lies sleeping until the day when Britain shall need him again. The monochromatic treatment and bold tonal contrast give a strong sense of drama in keeping with the subject of the painting. Beautiful. Rook by Amy Brown. I'm sorry, and Morgan Le Fay was done by Jessica Galbraith. And this is Rook by Amy Brown. Get you centered here so you can see as much as possible. Sirens. These sea fairies are usually depicted as nymphs or mermaids, though it is said that they once looked like bird women. And here's one right here. It's a bird with a woman's head, and it does have hands. Their wonderful singing is an irresistible enchantment, drawing men to their deaths as they either jump overboard or wreck their ships on the rocks in an attempt to reach the exquisite music. The shore of the Sirens' Island is littered with the bleached bones of sailors. Only one man heard their singing and lived, the clever Greek hero Odysseus, who stopped his men's ears with wax and tied himself to the ship's mast so that he could listen without succumbing to the sirens' fatal charms. Goblins. Ooh, we needed this page for the RTC Goblin hashtag RTC Goblin mode that I participated in on my paper crafting channel. Goblins are some of the more unpleasant denizens of the fairy realm, the villains of the fairy world, and companions to the dead. Their name means evil spirit. The best time to see goblins is Halloween, when they emerge from their homes, which lie in tree roots, caves, or grubby holes in the ground. Then they will haunt the churchyard with the ghosts or make mischief around the village, trying to tempt people into eating fairy food, which will make them the prisoners of the fairies forever. Goblins are small, swarthy, ugly creatures who look like squat, crooked humans, and the smile from one is horrible enough to turn milk sour. Banshees adopt families from pure Celtic blood, and their unearthly wails pierce the air when death or disaster is about to befall them. Their keening is said to resemble a combination of a wild goose's screech, a wolf's howl, and the pitiful cry of an abandoned child. If a member of the family goes out to look, the banshee may be seen sitting in the branches of a tall tree, silhouetted against the moon, combing her long black hair. The family member must be careful, though, as if one of these hairs falls on him, he will be cursed forevermore. Queen of the Night. So this is how to draw and paint that. Ooh, I love that color scheme. The cool tones of teals and blues and purples. I love that. This one's by Jessica Galbraith, I think. Yeah. Queen of the Night. I love her. Fairy helpers. Some fairies take a great interest in humans and will help their favorite people. They admire simple folk who are generous and hardworking and hate those who are lazy, quarrelsome, and greedy. Pixies. The moorland of southwest England is alive with these playful fairies, who delight in playing practical jokes on the unwary. One of their tricks is to pixie lead travelers, or, in other words, to lead them astray from their path across the heath. Another favorite prank is stealing horses and ponies, riding them wildly through the night before returning them in the morning tired out, with knotted manes and tails, to the farmer's puzzlement. Their humor is good-natured, however, and if they choose, pixies can be as helpful as brownies. One Devonshire farmer found his barns full of threshed grain, a gift from the pixies. Elves. Elves are larger than most fairies, being of human size or even slightly taller. They live in large communities in specific woodland groves or underground inside the fairy hills. Elves are ruled by a king and queen and are sometimes called trooping fairies because they ride out in magnificent processions behind their rulers, mounted on prancing ponies whose eyes flash with fire and whose hooves are shod with gold. The males are stately and handsome, while female elves have an unearthly beauty, with long pale hair that sweeps the ground, and dew-sprinkled gowns that sparkle as though set with diamonds. Gnomes are earth fairies, their name meaning earth dweller, and it is said that they can move through their element as easily as the fish moves through water. They protect and guard all the things of the earth, from the treasured minerals and metals within it and its rocks and stones to the plants that grow on it, though it is really the soil that gnomes are concerned with. It is for this reason that many people have little protective statues of gnomes in their gardens, showing them as jolly-faced little men with red caps, tunics, belts, and boots. Leprechauns are cobblers who make the shoes for all the fairy gentry. They are usually seen with a last and hammer, but for some reason only one shoe in the making. The Irish will tell you that the leprechaun hides his pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and if you can reach the end of the rainbow, he will be forced to hand it over. Leprechauns are small, wrinkled, and usually dressed in a homely fashion. Don't be surprised if you catch him enjoying a pipe of tobacco and a glass of good Irish whiskey. Love it. Winter outfit. We're on our next drawing and painting. Look at that. That's beautiful. Fairy realm. The fairy realm overlaps our own, concealed from human sight. At certain magical times and seasons, it may be visible for a while, and if you are lucky, you may then glimpse the other world. Aww. The Ent. Inspired by the creatures created by J.R.R. Tolkien in this epic trilogy, The Lord of the Rings. The Ents. Megalithic stones. That reminds me of my Ancient Stones Oracle. The moon pool. That looks beautiful. And that's a tree nymph. Beautiful. Magical trees. Perhaps the vast majority of fairies live in forests, making their homes in hollow trees or deep within their roots. They favor certain varieties with magical reputations, such as oaks, elms, hawthorns, willows, and elders. Some fairies embody the spirits of the trees they inhabit. And when we set up our Christmas trees and deck them with lights, we are following a very ancient tradition of honoring such beings. Mortals are welcome in the fairy forest as long as they respect its laws, but if they should harm its plants or creatures, the fairies will take their revenge. Got the fox and a squirrel and a bear and an owl. I love this little tree painting. Oh, look at the mushroom houses. Toadstools. Many Victorian and Edwardian illustrations show fairies perched on top of toadstools, usually the red and white spotted fly agaric, or living in little houses inside the fungi. I'm sorry about that. Batman's or Pablo, somebody's scratching at the door. Fungi have always had a magical reputation because of the way they seem to grow and disappear again almost overnight. Okay. Many Victorian and toadstools. Many Victorian and Edwardian illustrations show fairies perched on top of toadstools, usually the red and white spotted fly agaric, or living in little houses inside the fungi. The red caps of the fairies may be made from the mushroom too. Fungi have always had a magical reputation because of the way they seem to grow and disappear again almost overnight. One kind, the fairy ring mushroom, leaves a ring of toadstools in the grass, and this is where fairies are thought to dance. Some of these rings are up to 600 years old. We have several fairy rings in our neighborhood. Not in our yard, though. Castles. Some fairies make their homes in human castles, living in the cellars or dark corners, and occasionally helping out with chores, rather like very grand brownies. Others are fascinated by abandoned turrets and haunt their remains, some with good and some with evil intent toward human travelers. Many fairies have their own magnificent dwellings, built in the air from clouds or in the far north from ice. Water fairies own impressive palaces under the waves, decorated with plunder from shipwrecks. The entrance to fairy castles may be in the human realm, but hidden from sight by powerful spells. Mossy Stump is the name of this one that it shows us how to make. And that is the end. Well, that is just a beautiful book. How do you see a fairy, let alone draw one? Well, I don't see myself drawing one anytime soon. Not on this level, anyway. However, it was just a beautiful book, and I was so happy that I came across it. Well, thanks for spending all this time going through this book with me. If you're still here, thank you, and I hope you all have a magical day. Bye.